Tonight, what we're learning about a pivotal meeting that led to the finance minister's stunning resignation.
Whatever happened, the culmination was that she was treated very abysmally.
A prime minister in crisis and under pressure to step down.
He's delusional if he thinks we can continue like this.
What sources say Trudeau told Freeland about who would be replacing her. The loonie drops below 70 cents US for the first time in years. Why it could go even lower. And the new allegation against the alleged killer of a health insurance executive.
For the brazen, targeted, and premeditated shooting.
Why prosecutors say it's not just murder, it's an act of terrorism.
From CBC News, this is The National with Christine Birack.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is away. New details are coming to light tonight about what exactly led up to Chrystia Freeland's explosive resignation from the Liberal cabinet. A private Zoom call from the Prime Minister to deliver stunning news. It's all fueling growing pushback against him from within the Liberal caucus. The list of MPs now calling for Justin Trudeau to step down, growing significantly. The House of Commons is now adjourned for the holidays, not set to resume until the end of January. Ashley Burke with how Trudeau is rallying supporters as his detractors turn up the pressure.
This Liberal holiday party is only the second time the Prime Minister has made a public appearance since Chrystia Freeland's stunning resignation.
Like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it.
That's about all he's saying publicly about what's unfolding, but sources are saying a lot privately, including to Radio Canada that in a Zoom meeting on Friday, Trudeau told Freeland she would be replaced as finance minister, and that former governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney, would take over. But a source told CBC News at that point, Carney hadn't agreed to take the job.
Whatever happened, the culmination was that she was treated very abysmally.
After Freeland's blunt resignation letter, Liberal MP Anthony Housefather went public for the first time, calling for Trudeau to quit.
Her letter is a clarion call to me and I think to other caucus members. And I believe that when that letter came out to me, it said, Anthony, you also have an obligation to speak out the way Chrystia did.
It was a vote of non-confidence in the Prime Minister.
The Liberals are also facing another blow, losing a third seat this year in by-elections, this time in BC.
I am asking the Prime Minister to announce that he'll be stepping down.
Since Monday, a half dozen more Liberal MPs have joined the list of their colleagues saying Trudeau should go.
I've always been loyal to Mr. Trudeau. I think loyalty, though, is not a one-way street. I think he should reflect on his future.
Trudeau told his caucus Monday he would think about his future, but has said that before and stayed on.
The Prime Minister is living in a false reality. He's delusional if he thinks we can continue like this.
I believe that he will lead us to the next election.
But others are still standing in his corner.
Confidence in the Prime Minister? Yes, I do.
Yes, I think all of us should be loyal to the Prime Minister.
Since Freeland quit, there's been no meaningful public comment from the Prime Minister about it.
Actually, what do we know about what else has been unfolding?
Well, Trudeau has been meeting with his staff and advisors to figure out what to do next, and they're still making efforts to do a larger cabinet shuffle that could still happen by the end of the week. But in the meantime, he's canceled his planned year-end interviews with media, including CBC News.
Thanks, Ashley. Ashley Burke in Ottawa. Freeland's resignation isn't going unnoticed in the U.S., where she is well known to President-elect Donald Trump. Katie Simpson with how he and some media are framing her departure.
When American news outlets pay attention to a Canadian political scandal, it's a sign of how bad things are.
Now Trump's America First policies are putting Trudeau's role as Prime Minister in jeopardy.
Pundits and hosts on Fox News delighting in the Prime Minister's woes.
The reality is that his reign of power there is massively fragile.
All of it the day after Donald Trump offered his own take on the departure of Chrystia Freeland. Writing on social media, her behavior was totally toxic, not at all conducive to making deals. She will not be missed. Similar to his attacks when she was leading NAFTA talks during his first administration.
We're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much.
A Liberal source close to Freeland laughed off the attacks, saying it's nice to see she lives rent-free in Trump's head, adding it almost sounds like he doesn't want to negotiate against her again.
She is willing to be forceful, and she was also willing to put her foot down, and all of those things, all that pushback really annoyed Donald Trump.
If you have a trade representative working on behalf of Canada that is well liked by the other side of the table, that's not the kind of trade negotiator you want representing Canada.
Freeland largely led the Canada-US file during her time in cabinet. Her chaotic departure presents an opportunity for Trump.
Division is great for him because he's in the middle and he can play one interest off another. Provinces off the federal government, Mexico off Canada, Chrystia Freeland off Justin Trudeau. And it works for him.
Trump so far is not backing away from his tariff threat. And unless his mind is changed, Ottawa has less than 6 weeks to ready its retaliation strategy. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington. Ottawa is already promising an immediate strategy to secure the border and avoid those tariffs. The newly sworn-in finance minister detailed the government's $1.3 billion plan.
Our investments will enable the Canada Border Services Agency to deploy new chemical detection, imaging, and artificial intelligence-powered tools, as well as new canine teams to better detect illegal drugs.
The plan is meant to appease President-elect Donald Trump, who has threatened to hit Canada with 25% tariff. Well, Canada's weakened loonie hit a milestone low today. The Canadian dollar dipped below 70 cents US this morning, the first time it's dropped that low since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in March of 2020. For more on what's happening here, let's bring in senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong. So, Peter, put this into context for us.
Yeah, because the context matters, right? The dollar fell, but it fell 0.35 cents today. Look back to where the dollar was this time last year, right around 75 cents. So the question, to me at least, is less about what happened today and more about why the dollar has weakened so sharply over these last 12 months. And there's a bunch of reasons, but kind of two main ones. The first is what they call interest rate divergence with the United States. It just means rates are higher, the economy is growing faster in the United States. We've been cutting rates at a faster pace than anybody else in the G7. So investors look at that and say, you know, they can get more return on their investment by buying US dollars, so that's what they do. The other main reason, though, of course, is tariffs, right? Trade with the United States is just so deeply important to the Canadian economy that even the threat of Donald Trump sweeping tariffs weaken the loonie further. You know, I was here just last week talking about what those two forces coming together could mean and could it break us through that psychological barrier of 70 cents, and here we are. The other sort of added context here is the chaos and uncertainty of yesterday's events in Ottawa certainly didn't help matters, but it is important to say that this is bigger than just a one day or one event thing.
All right, so how low should we expect the dollar to go?
Look, I've heard from analysts who said they expect the dollar to go as low as 68 cents. More to the point, they don't see much that can really turn it around, so lower for longer. And I can almost hear the gasp of anybody planning a trip or planning to buy products in US dollars. But remember, it's bad for them, but a low dollar is great for exporters. If you sell Canadian oil, if you sell Canadian wheat or steel or lumber, this is very good news for their bottom lines as well.
CBC's Peter Armstrong. Thanks, Peter.
You bet.
There's a new twist in the story of Luigi Mangione, the man accused of a Manhattan street murder. Prosecutors now say they will also try to prove the killing was terror-related. Ithel Musa looks at a New York state law created after 9/11.
The man accused of gunning down a health insurance CEO on a New York City street suddenly faces an additional charge related to terror.
Murder in the second degree is an act of terrorism. For the brazen, targeted, and premeditated shooting of Brian Thompson.
Luigi Mangione is alleged to have shot Thompson in early December.
For a state prosecutor to pursue a terrorism charge is relatively rare.
According to a law enforcement bulletin obtained by the Associated Press, the 26-year-old was likely motivated by anger towards what he called parasitic health insurance companies and corporate greed.
I've long suspected that this would be treated a little more seriously than your run-of-the-mill murder case, because it clearly is intended to send a message.
New York passed a law after the September 11th attacks that allows prosecutors to charge crimes as acts of terrorism when there is intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, and affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping.
It's quite possible that you will have a life sentence without the possibility of parole, that you will spend the rest of your life in custody. So it's more serious in that regard.
New York State does not have the death penalty. Mangione is currently being held on gun charges in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week. An extradition hearing, which he is fighting, is scheduled for Thursday. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Those two NASA astronauts who've been stuck on the International Space Station are going to be stuck a little longer. They blasted off back in June for an 8-day stay, but problems with their Boeing Starliner capsule meant it was sent back empty. Their next ride was supposed to arrive in February, but NASA now says SpaceX needs more time to ready the new capsule, which means they'll be up there until March at least. A disturbing picture is emerging tonight in Syria. The discovery of mass graves that may hold the remains of thousands killed under Bashar al-Assad's brutal regime. Paul Hunter now on the call to help identify the dead.
On its surface, this desolate field on the outskirts of Damascus betrays little of the horror buried below. Believed to be a mass grave, it's where the desperate now seek any evidence of family long since missing. In some places, human bones bleached by the sun. All of it signaling the atrocities of former dictator Bashar al-Assad. Down the street, it gets worse. In the bags, all tied neatly, more bits of bodies. Sobering, but likely a mere fraction of the hundreds of thousands of Syrians who went missing under Assad. We call on international organizations to come open these graves so we can find our children and determine whether they're dead, he says. Where are they? Whose son is this? Whose son is that? We don't know.
Everybody in this country was terrorized by this regime, and every family seems to be affected by a disappearance, and they cry out for answers about what happened to their child.
The evidence that is coming out of Syria.
What's being found in Syria, said the U.S. State Department, shocks the conscience, including, it says, evidence, some still not made public, pointing to murder, torture, and indeed mass graves. The U.S. wants two things immediately.
Answers for the families of those who have been disappeared, those who have been tortured, those who have been killed, and accountability for those who did it.
Back outside Damascus, it's clear the task ahead is grisly, complicated, and perhaps never-ending. This man points to 3 other trenches just like the one he's standing at. They're all full, he says, adding, where are our children? We're looking for thousands of people. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Russia is vowing revenge tonight after one of its top generals was killed in an apparent assassination in Moscow. As you're about to see, the bombing was caught on video. Aaron Collins shows the moment it happened.
Hours before dawn, the final moments leading up to a deadly explosion. On a quiet street in Moscow, a high-profile killing, captured on dashcam. The blast was so powerful that it didn't seem like construction. It was very scary, this local resident says. This detonation shaking up Russia's war with Ukraine, too. The bomb planted in an electric scooter targeted this man, General Igor Kirillov in charge of Russia's radioactive, chemical, and biological weapons. Kirillov under sanctions from several countries, including Canada. Accused of using banned weapons against Ukrainian troops. Sources inside Ukraine's security service quickly claimed responsibility for the attack, catching its allies off guard.
I don't have any assessment on that explosion. I can tell you that the United States was not aware of it in advance and was not involved.
For its part, Moscow denies allegations against Kirillov, Russia's former president, promising to hit back. We must do everything to destroy the patrons who are in Kyiv, he says. With Russian forces making advances in the field, Ukraine has stepped up its covert attacks in recent months, targeting other military and political leaders. The country's Western allies sticking with them.
We must support Ukraine in what they're doing. This is an act of aggression by Russia that's been going on for a very, very long time. So we must stand with Ukraine at this critical period.
As Russia's invasion of Ukraine grinds towards its third anniversary, Ukraine is looking for even more support. President Volodymyr Zelensky could raise the idea of foreign peacekeepers being deployed in his country at a meeting of European leaders Wednesday. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Here in this country, thousands of Canada Post workers are back on the job tonight. But after more than a month on the picket lines, they're dealing with a mountain of mail. Belle Puri now on what that means for your holiday deliveries.
How many international?
12 international.
Business was brisk at this Canada Post outlet the minute it was back in operation.
I'm happy. I've tried to be positive, so it's happy now, Finally back, yes.
Small neighborhood postal outlets are jammed with stacks of parcels that have been trapped for weeks.
How many items do you think you have there?
I think at least 300 packages. The 32-day postal strike has created a costly backlog of a couple million parcels across the country. It's been a big hit for small business during the busiest mailing season of the year. I will see a loss of $100,000.
How much?
$100,000 for the 1 month. Workers remained off the job at one West Coast Canada Post processing plant despite being ordered back to work by the Canada Industrial Relations Board. A picket line temporarily blocked the entrance as half a dozen other unions showed their solidarity with postal workers.
I'm here with a bunch of concerned citizens because we're fed up with the federal government issuing Section 107s to unions and sending them back to work and empowering the employers not to negotiate with us fairly.
On the opposite coast, angry Canada Post employees maintained their picket line until precisely the moment they were ordered to return to work.
It's a very sad day for postal workers, CUPW members. It's a very sad day for unionized members.
In a statement, Canada Post says packages will be cleared on a first-in, first-out basis. Service guarantees have been suspended, and Canadians should expect delivery delays through the remainder of the year.
They will have lost customers, significant numbers, I believe, and this is going to accelerate the continued decline of Canada Post.
For now, though, the rush is on to get the mail out.
Happy it's over, and here I am at the post office.
Thank you. With just days before Christmas, delivery delays are expected well into the new year. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
A new report is confirming what many Canadians are already feeling. Our winters are getting warmer.
You can feel it. You don't need the data really to see that.
The hidden dangers behind the milder temperatures next. Plus, the new comedy bringing Canada's Arctic to the world.
I think a lot of Inuit will see the show and feel like they recognize a lot of the characters.
The CBC series Breaking Barriers. And later, when they heard someone leaning hard on the horn, they weren't expecting this.
They're sitting there with the paw out, just kind of not even knowing what she's doing.
The surprise behind the wheel, caught on camera. New numbers out tonight back up what many Canadians are already feeling. Winters are getting warmer. Anand Ram takes us through the data and shows us what happens when some cities lose weeks of winter weather.
Not ideal weather for an outdoor rink. Joelle Campbell's been helping set this one up every year for a decade, and lately, consistent below-zero temperatures are hard to come by.
I would say in my first 5 years here, we had one bad year, whereas in my second 5 years here, we've had one good year.
Across the country, a new analysis from the nonprofit Climate Central says climate change is adding more above-zero days to winter. The biggest loser of sub-zero weather is Vancouver at almost 3 weeks. It's about a week warmer in Montreal, and in Toronto, it's almost 2 full weeks above freezing every winter.
You can feel it, you know, you don't need the data really to see that, because I feel it just working at the rink here.
The whole family went skating.
To be clear, the weather may still bring us scenes like this, the winters we used to know. But the more the climate is warmed by humans burning fossil fuels, the more likely those winters become warmer and wetter.
Many regions depend on having a healthy, thick snowpack heading into spring. And when you don't have that, then there's less water for the drier and warmer months of the year.
And beyond food or fun, researchers say ice that's been exposed to above-zero temperatures may have hidden weaknesses.
These weaker ice conditions contribute to more drownings through ice. And the highest number of drownings occur at the beginning and the end of the winter season.
It's more management on your part, right?
It is, yeah. Scheduling is a little trickier. We need to be able to, be nimble and flood when the time allows us.
For Campbell, who taught his 3 children to skate on this rink, it's still worth waiting for those freezing days, even if they're fewer and far between.
If we can get it open for even part of the holidays, is just a huge benefit for the whole neighborhood.
There is hope for a wintry future, but experts say the time to act is now, before future generations end up on a path they can't control. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
Excitement is growing in Nunavut about a new TV comedy created by Inuit filmmakers.
A landmark in history in terms of cinematography, and it's quite the honor to live here and be here.
How it could boost film production in northern communities. Plus, with his government in disarray, what's the next move for Justin Trudeau?
Prime Minister, are you going to remain in office, sir?
Can his leadership survive? And Donald Trump's already weighing in on the political chaos. We'll look at what it could mean for impending trade talks. The National breaks down the story shaping our world next. A groundbreaking new comedy series coming to CBC is all about life in Canada's Arctic. It's created by Inuit filmmakers, shot in Iqaluit. And as Juanita Taylor explains, it's about to bring Nunavut to the world.
For people here in Iqaluit, the star-studded red carpet for a groundbreaking new comedy, North of North, is both a party and a moment of pride.
Yeah, it's a landmark in history in terms of cinematography, and it's quite the honor to live here and be here.
Hi, it's Yaya. The show follows a young Inuk mother fumbling her way toward a new life in a small Arctic community.
The accident made me realize I need a fresh start.
No. A world that the show's Nunavut-based creators say is built for comedy.
Making North of North a comedy was the most authentic way to tell this story. We are people that love to laugh. We laugh our way through things.
I think a lot of Inuit will see the show and feel like they recognize a lot of the characters, like that could be their mother, that could be their sister.
The town is fiction, but for people here, it's relatable.
Oh my gosh, there was a lot of things that hit really close to home, but a lot of similarities, but a lot of, it's in a very nice, fresh perspective, and I'm really grateful to have Inuit representation in the show.
North of North features rising star Anna Lamb from HBO's True Detective Night Country. She hopes the story of modern Inuit life will resonate around the world.
What I hope people worldwide get out of this show, I think sometimes people only understand Inuit as like a historical people. We don't exist anymore. It's like, well, no, we've always been here and we've always been so connected to the rest of the world.
This Indigenous arts journalist also hopes it changes perceptions.
It allows us to be more fully human in the eyes of the people who view these stories. If you're only ever viewed for your trauma, you're not really seen as whole.
With no studios, it wasn't easy to film in Iqaluit. But with the first studio now under construction, ang Nakukbaril is optimistic about the territory's film industry.
It's a space that we wish we had access to when we were starting out, and we hope it'll be a game changer for the Nunavut film industry.
The first episode will premiere on CBC and APTN in January. The global launch for North of North will be in the spring. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the story shaping our world. Tonight, an embattled Prime Minister weighs his options after his finance minister's stunning resignation. Chrystia Freeland's move got Ottawa and Washington talking. We'll break down the fault lines, the fallout, and Justin Trudeau's uncertain future.
I don't know what more anybody would have to see to know that it's time to move on.
You still have confidence in the Prime Minister yourself?
I do, absolutely.
But first, opposition parties have pounced on the political turmoil.
Trudeau's lost control of everything.
From within and without, the Prime Minister's leadership is in open question. That's where Ellen Morrow picks up the story. With the Liberals in crisis, just what are Trudeau's options?
You failed Canada. You ruined
Justin Trudeau has always managed to hold on, no matter the scandal, no matter the fallout. That could all be different this time around.
He's delusional if he thinks we can continue like this.
I think the only path forward for us is to choose a new leader.
Calls to resign from his own party growing louder after the shock resignation of longtime ally Chrystia Freeland.
There's a huge hole to climb out of for the PM now. It has been death by 1,000 cuts.
So what could happen next for a prime minister and country mired in political crisis? So much of that depends on Trudeau himself.
People have been trying to write him off for a while, so it might be premature to say that he's completely finished.
Trudeau could try to stay, and in the hours after Freeland's resignation from cabinet, he tried to carry on business as usual.
As Minister of Finance,
quickly swearing in Dominic LeBlanc to replace her as finance minister, and all smiles at a Liberal Party fundraiser.
I love this country. I really do.
And despite the calls in caucus getting louder for Trudeau to go, he still has some support.
Yes, I think all of us should be loyal to the Prime Minister.
He's focused on delivering for Canadians.
Still, Liberal MPs have a larger political context to consider. The party, under a deeply unpopular Trudeau poll suggests, is facing a wipeout in the next election, which must be held by October 2025.
I think it's sinking in that the consensus in his caucus is that he should leave, or there should be some process.
If Trudeau did step down as party leader, it would trigger an internal contest to replace him, with someone new to square off against Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
If you hire clowns, you get a circus.
And the NDP's Jagmeet Singh.
He has failed. He has to quit.
But there's no official party mechanism to force Trudeau out. And in the past, he's repeatedly said he'll be the one to lead the Liberals into the next election.
We're going to continue to have great conversations about what is the best way to take on Pierre Poilievre in the next election. But that'll happen with me as leader.
So instead of moving aside, Trudeau could call an early election himself, or even prorogue or pause Parliament after the weeks-long winter break in an effort to reset.
Up until now, he's always had the luxury of saying, well, I think I can turn things around. But as fall 2025 gets closer and closer, he's going to run out of space to make those kinds of arguments.
Why won't the Prime Minister have the courage to come in here, present it himself, and put it for a confidence vote tonight?
There's also the looming threat of a non-confidence vote, potentially toppling Trudeau's minority government in the new year, infighting or not. Whether it stands depends largely on the NDP's willingness to keep propping it up.
Justin Trudeau has to go. He has to resign. And because of that,
all options are on the table.
Jagmeet Singh does not want to bring down a Liberal government, knowing at least from the polls that the suggestion is that it'll be replaced by a Conservative government that will be far less progressive. He'd rather see Trudeau resign and trigger an election on his own.
Trudeau says he'll reflect on his leadership in the coming weeks. His father famously left politics after a walk in the snow. Could his son now be on the same path?
The basic principle of crisis management is you get to the end state as quickly as possible, right? And in this scenario, the end state, I think, is likely the Prime Minister will not be the leader of the Liberal Party or the country within the next 3 to 4 months.
Ellen Morrow laying out some possible options. Let's dig deeper on this with two Liberal MPs. Chandra Arya is the member for Nepean near Ottawa, and Ken Hardy is MP for Fleetwood Port Kells in British Columbia. There are new calls for the Prime Minister's resignation. Ken, I understand you're one of them. Tell us why.
Well, a couple of months ago when caucus did meet and the discussion about the PM resigning took place, I said at the time that what I was waiting for was a compelling reason why Canadians should give the Prime Minister and our government another term. I have not seen the compelling reason, and the confidence in the Prime Minister from the Canadian public seems to be not moving in a positive direction. So I think it is time to shift gears.
Chandra, you are still compelled and still seeing compelling reasons. Why are you still supporting Justin Trudeau?
There's no fundamental reason why Prime Minister Trudeau should resign. He has got a great track record of over 9 years of delivering things to Canadians, from managing the NAFTA negotiation, to managing a pandemic, to bringing in great programs like the Canada Child Benefit, the $10 daycare program. So he has done a good track record. There is no fundamental reason why he should resign other than the current popularity numbers.
Mm-hmm. Chandra, I wonder how widespread is that support within the party?
In my opinion, majority of the caucus are in support of Prime Minister Trudeau. And I've been talking to Liberals. I hosted a couple of holiday dinners to the Liberals in my riding and surrounding areas, and I hear a great deal of support to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Ken, I heard majority of caucus. Do you agree?
Listen, he and I are not far apart on this issue. The Prime Minister and the former Finance Minister have come up with policies for Canada that are absolutely incredibly fantastic. The problem is that they're not resonating with Canadians. And for us to actually follow through on these policies, we need to be in government. And if we can't be in government, then something has to change. So this is very pragmatic. I mean, I respect the Prime Minister. I respect, what he has done for the country. But if the country isn't reciprocating with the kind of support that we need to form government, then, as I say, we do have to shift gears.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is the conversation that's happening. And Chandra, the polls indicate your party is hurting and the Prime Minister is polling low as well. How do you get out of this?
There's no surprise there. You know what? Unprecedented inflation, the high interest rates during the last 2 years to control that inflation, it caused a real pain amongst Canadians. The cost of living crisis, the affordability crisis, it did hurt us. So the low number is not a surprise. But the work we have done in combating that inflation, the work we have done in addressing the cost of living crisis, it is starting to yield fruits now. 2 years we held firm. People wanted to spend more money. On the other hand, people wanted to follow the austerity measures. But we held firm. The actions, the programs of the government has allowed this economic crisis to come back to normal. Now, Canadians are receptive to hear what we are going to propose. We are right now at the sweet spot. I think we should now sit back and wait for the Prime Minister and his team to come up with the new policy proposals, how we are going to go forward for the benefit of all Canadians.
So, Ken, Chandra is talking about new ideas. Obviously, there are deep divisions within the party and there are uncomfortable conversations happening, but we are glad that you're willing to come and talk to us. But how do you move forward from your point of view?
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't say there's deep divisions. We have established, as Chandra has mentioned, we've established an incredible body of work in terms of good public policy, the sort of things that Mr. Poilievre would never, ever do to help the country. But without the support and the confidence of Canadians at street level, we're never going to get a chance to implement these things. I think that instead of coming up with a wholesale change to our book of policies, we need to include things that really do resonate with the average Canadian who still, many of them are still suffering or they're worried about the fact that they may be suffering. So these are all things that have to be considered. I don't think they've been considered well enough. And I think we're almost, to the point where the current leader cannot really, if you like, muster the inertia, the momentum to basically take us over the finish line.
I wonder for both of you, we've heard that the Prime Minister is going to reflect. I only have a short time left, but Chandra, what do you hope you hear?
I hope to hear that he's coming back with new ideas, based on what we have done for so long, for 9 years, especially with the threat of the new administration in the U.S.
Ken, I only have a few seconds, but do you want to get your response on what you hope to hear in?
Well, the old guy's advice would be to first prorogue Parliament until March, secondly, to resign, and third, to launch a process by which a new leader emerges.
I want to thank both of you for being here and having this conversation with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The political scandal engulfing the Prime Minister has also got the attention of Donald Trump. Up next, how will Chrystia Freeland's exit weigh on trade talks with the U.S.? Chrystia Freeland's exit has stirred Liberal disarray, just as Canada faces impending U.S. tariffs. As Ottawa's lead negotiator in the last free trade deal, she drew Donald Trump's ire. Her departure has rekindled it. Joining us now from Washington is the CBC's Katie Simpson, and in Ottawa we have Rob Russo from The Economist. Katie, I want to start with you. Donald Trump weighed in last night on Chrystia Freeland's departure. He posted this on social media platform Truth Social. The great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigned. Her behavior was totally toxic. She will not be missed. Katie, what should we make of Trump weighing in like this?
It is widely thought in those expert circles of people who follow trade negotiations that it is a good thing. It is a very good thing when the other side does not like your key trade negotiator. And let's break it down a little further. So why is it? Why is it Donald Trump not like Chrystia Freeland? Is it because she stood up for Canada? Is it because she wouldn't cave or make concessions that he wanted as he pursues his America First agenda? Are those the kinds of things that made her a thorn in his side? That could be viewed very strongly in Canada as a good thing. And the experts I've been speaking to and the sources saw that as a good point of friction. It's something that should be supported and sort of endorsed in Canada as Canada prepares to deal with another round of all kinds of negotiations.
Rob, just jumping off of what Katie was saying, Freeland played a central role in negotiating the last free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, and apparently Trudeau wanted her to continue working on some sort of Canada-U.S. relations portfolio. Does her departure from cabinet put Canada at a disadvantage?
In many ways, yes. And we can say that he wanted her to work on this file, but he gave her a kind of make-believe, magic wand-waving ministry that had no resources, no staff, and really no mandate except whatever mandate the Prime Minister was going to give her with those resources. Yes, it's critical now that the Prime Minister find somebody who is going to be able to speak for Canada and who is going to be able to try to lasso what is a Team Canada that's skating on rusty blades in sand, really, when you think about it. We've got an enfeebled government. We've got a government that has very little support out, in the country, a government that has very little support inside of its own caucus room. We have premiers who are representing their own regional interests. It's quite frankly, utter disarray is what it is. And somebody with some sort of gravitas needs to be able to take this on, lasso it, and represent the interests of Canada at a time when they're staring down the barrel of Trump tariffs of 25% in about, what time is it now? In about 6 weeks.
Yeah, a lot at stake. Katie, you covered the last round of North American free trade negotiations. What do you remember about covering Freeland and Trump's negotiations or interactions at the time?
Really what stands out is how things can go from being super calm, super chill, thinking everything is okay, to immediate 5-alarm fire, to, oh my goodness, disaster mode, what are we going to do? Just think back to 2018 and the G7 Leader Summit in Charlevoix. Everyone thought that, you know, all the leaders of these G7 countries were sort of on the same page. They'd agreed to a communique to pledge to work together on a certain number of issues. And then as Donald Trump is leaving, heading overseas, he catches a news conference that Justin Trudeau was putting on, and he didn't like the tone, he didn't like what Justin Trudeau was saying, and all of a sudden he starts firing off these tweets calling Justin Trudeau weak and dishonest at a key point in the negotiating process when it came to tariffs and when it came to renegotiating NAFTA, and how quickly things can go from calm to immediately a panic disaster mode. And that is what is coming down the pipe once Donald Trump returns to the White House. It's not even when he returns to that White House. We're already seeing it in this moment.
And at this moment, Freeland is out. Rob, is Dominic LeBlanc well suited to filling Freeland's shoes, not just in the finance portfolio, but also in the negotiations with the U.S.?
Well, I haven't looked closely, but if we had some sort of X-ray machine, we might see that he's wearing asbestos underwear, because it doesn't matter what hot seat you put him in, he looks really, really cool, doesn't he? So I would sense that, yes, he would be a very, very safe pair of hands in order to take this on. But it's a tough task. Trump right now is astride a legislative rocket. He owns both houses in the U.S. Congress. The Team Canada approach in the past was, in effect, to try to go around Trump through the governors, through members of the Houses of Representatives and the Senate, and you can't do that now. He owns them. His whim is legislation. So we're going to have to come up with another strategy, and we're going to have to do that in the face of an administration stocked stiff with people who loathe Justin Trudeau, who have unleashed a torrent of bile against Justin Trudeau and his government. It is a daunting challenge.
Katie, I'm running out of time, but last question. The incoming administration seems intent on dramatically changing Canada-U.S. relations. Do you have any sense of whether it matters who is at Trudeau's side?
You know, Donald Trump is going to pursue an America First agenda. He believes he has a strong mandate from American voters on that, and there's nothing that's going to get in his way. Whether it's Justin Trudeau, whether it's another Liberal leader, or perhaps it could be another Prime Minister altogether, over the course of the next however many months, Donald Trump is going to do whatever he can to help benefit the United States, and that is something that he's going to be unapologetic about.
Katie Simpson, Rob Russo, I know we'll be talking again. Thanks so much for this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Up next, a dog in BC gets impatient while waiting for its owners.
There's a lot of people in the parking lot, and they're like concerned, like, what is that noise?
The restless canine in our moment. You're looking at Crystal, a 3-year-old boxer sitting in the driver's seat and blasting the car horn while she waits for her owners to come back. It caused a scene in the parking lot as shoppers took out their phones and captured it all. Tonight, the dog with places to be makes our moment.
She's such a hilarious character. Me and my mom went to the mall because we just got Dollarama in the mall, so we went and checked it out. We came back, and she was just sitting in the driver's seat like she always does. When I got home, I got a text from a friend. He sent me a link, and it was just her standing there, or sitting there with her paw out, just kind of not even knowing what she's doing, kind of eyebrows raising, looking around, like wondering why everybody's staring at her. There's a lot of people in the parking lot, and they're like concerned, like, what is that noise? I could just hear people laughing in the video and stuff like that. We absolutely loved it. Just watching it over and over. I had to tell my mom to turn the volume down. I was just me constantly and her laughing. She has no clue she's famous. She just sits there as clueless as when she was putting her paw on the horn. She's just like, wow, everybody loves me today. It's just like yesterday. It's just business as usual for her.
Just sitting there, patiently waiting. Now passers-by say Crystal was honking for about 10 minutes straight, which surprised her owners, who say she's accidentally hit the horn before, but it usually startles her and she backs off. But clearly, fear no more. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Christine Birak. Take care.